In a land far, far away, behind high mountains and beyond sparkling rivers, there was a magnificent kingdom. In this kingdom lived a little princess named Emily. Emily was a curious, brave, and dreamy girl. When she looked out the palace window, she always dreamed of going to faraway lands and exploring unknown places. One morning, a golden light appeared in the sky. The light was so bright that it lit up the entire palace. Emily knew this was no ordinary light. Her heart began to beat fast because she had a deep feeling inside. This light was calling her to a great adventure. Emily left the palace without thinking and followed the light. The path led her to the magical forest. The forest was beautiful like a fairy tale, but also full of mysteries. Stardust sparkled through the branches of the trees, and flowers whispered melodies. As Emily walked, new adventures came before her. First, she saw a bright pond. In the middle of the pond, a silver crown floated, but a giant water snake guarded the pond. Emily used her wits, picked a glowing flower, and put it in front of the snake. With the light of the flower, the snake calmed down, and Emily was able to take the crown. Then, a gigantic bridge appeared before her. The stone steps floated in the air and constantly shifted. Emily stepped carefully. The wind grew strong, but she did not give up. She bravely ran and crossed the bridge. At the end of the path, she found a golden door. On the door was written, "Only the pure of heart can enter." When Emily opened the door, she was met with a dazzling light and found herself in a valley of giant flowers. In the middle of the valley, a crystal tower rose. The path was covered with thorns, but when Emily put the crown on her head, a light shone and the thorns disappeared. When Emily entered the tower, she began to climb the stairs. Each step showed a new view: snow-covered mountains, coral cities, a starry sky. On one step, a dragon made of fire appeared. Emily was not afraid. When her crown glowed, the dragon turned into light. Finally, when she reached the top of the tower, she found a golden orb. When she touched the orb, the whole land lit up. But dark shadows appeared. They wanted to take the orb. Emily gathered her courage and repelled the shadows with the light of her crown. The light surrounded the entire kingdom, and peace returned. Emily was no longer just a princess, but a true hero. But this adventure was just the beginning for her, because on the way back, Emily discovered new doors. At the end of a path, there was a giant rainbow rising into the sky. When she went through the rainbow, she found herself above the clouds in Rainbow Village. In this village, the houses were made of candy, and the roads were made of shiny crystals. But a dark storm was spinning above the village. The storm wanted to break the rainbow. Emily raised her crown, looked bravely at the sky, and called upon the goodness in her heart. In an instant, the rainbow shone, the storm scattered, and the village found peace. On her next journey, Emily entered a magical cave. The inside of the cave was full of colorful stones, but there were shadow creatures living on the walls. They played tricks on Emily and made the paths shift. Emily walked carefully, listening to the melody of the stones. By following the melody, she found the right exit and escaped from the cave. At the exit, a small star appeared, guiding her. The star lit her path and took Emily to another land. Guided by the star, Emily reached the Forest of Songs, where talking rivers and fluffy animals lived. These animals were like cotton candy, and each had its own unique sound. Some made sizzling sounds, some made splashing sounds. However, a strange silence prevailed in the forest. All the animals were sad and colorless. Emily learned from the wise old owl of the forest what the problem was. It turned out that the magical song, which gave the forest its joy and color, had been stolen. The grumpy creature who stole the song, named Grumpy Shadow, had hidden the song in the Whispering Cave behind 7 mountains. Emily decided to embark on this adventure to bring back the color and sound of the fluffy animals. During her journey, she met a mischievous echo genie who imitated sounds. The genie repeated everything Emily said, trying to trick her. Emily used the light of her crown to neutralize the echo genie and told him how important the Forest of Songs was. The echo genie, touched by Emily's kindness, guided her and showed her the location of the Whispering Cave. The entrance to the Whispering Cave was a narrow crack where whispering winds danced. Every whisper inside told a memory or a dream. Grumpy Shadow had locked the song in a glass jar in the deepest part of the cave. When Emily approached, the shadow created a giant maze made of shadows. Emily used the light of her crown to light up the walls of the maze and find the right way. When she came face to face with Grumpy Shadow, she hummed a melody to him, explaining that everyone's heart, not just bad people's, can be full of goodness. Emily's pure and warm melody softened Grumpy Shadow, and the shadow released the song. The song instantly spread throughout the forest, and the fluffy animals began to make happy sounds and their colors started to sparkle. Emily's adventure took her further, to the Tower of Time. This tower had a different time period on each floor. At the entrance, a tired and forgetful clockmaker stood. The clockmaker explained that the key to the tower was lost, and because of this, time had stopped. Everyone living in the tower was starting to lose their memories. Emily noticed a small, glowing hourglass hanging around the clockmaker's neck. This hourglass always showed the right memory. Emily lit up the hourglass with the light of her crown, and the hourglass showed her where the key was, in the Hall of Playful Mirrors. The mirrors in the hall showed thousands of different reflections of Emily. Some reflected her as a small baby, some as a wise old woman, and some as an imaginary bird. Emily used the light of her crown to find the right mirror and found her truest reflection, the hero deep in her heart. This mirror whispered to Emily, in a puzzle, the place where the key was hidden. Find time itself. Put the memory back. When Emily left the mirror maze, she saw a memory from her childhood come to life. The memory showed her father giving her a tiny key. The key was hidden inside Emily's childhood memories. Emily clarified her memory with the light of her crown and found the key hidden in the memories. When she gave the key to the clockmaker, all the clocks in the tower began to work again, and everyone's memories in the tower returned. They thanked Emily for making time flow again. On her next journey, Emily fell into the land of shadows. This was a place where everything was only gray and black. The residents of the land knew no joy or laughter. The one who made them this way was the Queen of Sadness, who ruled the land. The queen collected people's joy and increased her own power. Emily was saddened by the gloomy atmosphere of the land. She made a plan to bring back joy. She gathered all the laughter, funny memories, and happy feelings from her heart. These feelings, combined with the light of her crown, created a brand new energy. Emily went to the queen with this energy. While the queen expected to be met with a blinding power from the light Emily brought, Emily told her a memory, the funny story of her father's clumsiness at the kingdom's masquerade ball when he dropped the cake. This story, for the first time, created a smile on the queen's stern face. Then Emily explained how valuable a small child's laughter is, and that joy is a contagious feeling. Emily's sincere stories and happy words began to melt the ice in the queen's heart. The queen admitted she was defeated by Emily and released all the joy she had collected. The land of shadows instantly began to get color. The shadows turned into bright colors, and they began to whisper happy songs. The residents of the land laughed for the first time. That day, the land of shadows was renamed the Land of Lights, and the Queen of Sadness became the Queen of Joy. Emily's new adventure took her high above the clouds, to a land among the mists and sparkling stars. This was a magical place known as the Well of Dreams. Around this well lived the dream birds, who collected the most beautiful dreams in the world. But lately, dreams had been fading, and nights were filling with nightmares. Emily learned from a dream bird that a giant nightmare spider, the guardian of the Well of Dreams, had stolen the brightest dreams. Emily saw that the wings of the dream birds were lifeless, and they could not collect dreams. The brave princess decided to bring the dreams back. The path to the Well of Dreams was full of a maze of swirling vortexes and misleading clouds. Emily lit her way with the light of her crown and thought of the most beautiful dream from her heart, a dream where the entire kingdom lived in peace and joy. This pure thought changed the shape of the clouds and created a safe path for Emily. At the end of the maze, she reached the nightmare spider's lair. The spider had woven a gigantic web, and in each thread of the web, a bright dream was trapped. Instead of fighting the spider, Emily tried to understand it. She realized that the spider was not really evil, but simply lacked joy because it had never dreamed. Emily took a piece of her own dreams and offered it to the spider. When the spider experienced a dream for the first time, the nightmares in its heart began to dissolve. The webs scattered, and the trapped dreams were released. The dream birds flew again in all directions, and the nights were once more filled with the most beautiful dreams. Emily, guided by the star, reached a huge ice palace. The doors of the palace were frozen. When Emily raised her crown, the light of the crown melted the ice. Inside were ice animal statues, eagles, lions, whales. But these were not statues. They were frozen living creatures. Emily bravely took the orb in her hand and shone its light on the animals. They began to fall one by one. The ice eagle flapped its wings and flew into the sky. The lion roared and ran into the forest. Thanks to Emily, the palace's spell was broken. Her next stop was the city of riddles, where everything was a riddle. Every gate, every street, even every fountain in the city asked a question. The biggest riddle was the transparent and glowing crystal library in the middle of the city. The door of the library was locked, and the key was given to the one who solved the most difficult riddle. The city residents had been trying to solve this riddle for years, but no one had succeeded. Emily learned the riddle from a wise dwarf, the guardian of the library. What is the strongest weapon? What is the sweetest reward? What is the darkest place? Emily began to think about these riddles. For the first question, she looked into her heart and understood that the strongest weapon is courage. For the second question, she thought about the joy and peace she got from her adventures and found that the sweetest reward is kindness. For the third question, she thought not about the shadows around her but about the hopelessness in her heart and whispered that the darkest place is hopelessness. The dwarf was amazed by Emily's answers. Emily's answers were a combination of wisdom and experience. The door of the library opened, and when Emily entered, she saw that every book inside held all the wisdom of the world. As the sun set, Emily found herself in the middle of a giant desert. The sands of the desert sparkled like gold. But suddenly, a sandstorm started. Emily closed her eyes and called upon the light of her crown. The light calmed the storm, and an ancient city appeared from under the sands. This city had glowing columns and golden roads. When Emily explored the city, she reached a stone of wisdom. The stone whispered to her, "The courage in your heart will always protect you." When Emily finally returned to her palace, she had learned so much. She had passed the snake of the pond, the wind of the bridge, the flames of the dragon, the storm of the rainbow, and the magic of the ice palace. All of them had reminded her of the power of her heart. She was no longer just a little princess, but the hero of her own adventures. Every corner of the kingdom talked about her courage. And deep in her heart, Emily knew that this was the beginning of many more adventures.